Have you seen Bloomberg's latest COVID resilience ranking? The conclusions are quite surprising. It ranks the US, which has the highest number of confirmed cases and deaths, as number 1. While Australia and the Chinese mainland, often praised for their decisive COVID-19 responses, are ranked 7th and 8th respectively. Unlike most multi-country COVID-19 resilience evaluations, which focus on how successfully the virus has been contained, Bloomberg's report introduces new indicators such as flight capacity and GDP growth forecast. By doing so, they intend to reflect how economies balance the relationship between societal reopening and virus containment. But we are talking about a pandemic, which has lasted for nearly 2 years, where we lost innocent lives, more than 4 million. We are not going to disregard the human toll with Bloomberg's comprehensive assessment. First, the indicators. Why does the aggregation of these indicators reflect a place's overall COVID-19 resilience? There's no sound and convincing explanation. The report only explained the logic behind each criterion. The lack of reasoning makes the ranking look like a subjective analysis, leaving the suspicion that addition or omission of certain indicators can be easily manipulated by the designers. Second, the measurement. In this report, the place performing the worst in an indicator scores 0, and the best 100. The overall performance score of each place is the average of its scores in all 12 indicators, and that brings a problem. For example, Peru ranks the worst when measuring total death per million people with a number of 5,806. But it's the only place where the number surpasses 2,900. And that makes all the remaining 52 places beyond the median. Now if you take Peru out of the equation, the US and over a dozen other places where the number exceeds 1,500 would get much poorer scores. There's no common baseline, which is why the combined figures are similarly skewed and quite misleading. Third, the balance. Bloomberg weighed all the 12 indicators equally and separately. For example, lockdown severity is simply treated as a negative indicator. But in places where vaccine supply is still limited and the majority of people is still vulnerable, lockdowns are the better option. And rating these places poorly for lockdown stringency defies logic. Facing a pandemic, how much a country should reopen its economy depends on how safe it is to do so. Without first considering its handling of the breakout, indicators such as community mobility and GDP growth forecast make little sense. Instead of looking at each indicator individually, perhaps a better measure might have been to weigh reopening progress and quality of life status against vaccination progress, the number of positive cases, and death. For some, instead of trying so hard to put America first, why not look at what's going on at Fort Detrick military lab in the US, a place that is intimately associated with the origin of the coronavirus?